Hi there, my friends. This video is all about a little something I like to call creative stupidity. You might have heard me talk about this in other videos, especially when I'm talking about little tips and strategies, little life hacks you can do in working with your little ones on their speech and language development. This video is definitely intended for other speech language pathologists, moms, dads, teachers, basically anybody who's looking for, again, those little tips that can help encourage speech and language expression, encourage engagement and social communication. So when we're talking about creative stupidity, another thing I like to call it, or I've heard it called, I should say, because I always call it creative stupidity, but sabotage, that's the other word. That word I actually learned not only from fellow speech pathologists in my school district, but Laura Mize, if you're a fan of Laura Mize, she uses the word sabotage when talking about these strategies of basically sabotaging a situation or a daily routine or something that that a child is used to doing to promote or give the opportunity for language expression, for them to initiate or for them to request or things like that. One of Laura Mize's really helpful hints to me that kind of makes this all click is leaving things out. So like if you're getting ready for bath time, she explains it in the sense that maybe the child's in the bath, everything's ready, but the water's not, or the tub's not filled, right? The water's not running because you're waiting for the child to say, kind of look around and maybe work on that joint attention piece of like, there's the faucet, mom, and you turn the water on. So just to build that. So that way, then the child, the child maybe points, so the child kind of looks at you funny and you interpret that as their communicative intent, or they say it verbally. Either way, if they look at you, say, oh, you're right. The water's not on. So things like that. So that's what we mean by sabotage. It's changing up a routine. It's changing up something in play, right? Because we're always trying to have fun and promote that play to keep those language skills growing. But it's those little things that a child will have the opportunity to then problem solve. And I actually learned about creative stupidity back in grad school during my early intervention and autism clinics, where I was working on a lot of those skills of language expression, of social engagement, reciprocity, so that back and forth, joint attention. And so I'm going to show you some of the ways that I like to bring this into my speech settings. So obviously the first thing we want to remember, like I've talked about in many of my videos, is we want to make sure we're listening to the child, we're observing what they like, and we're following their lead, all the while being face-to-face, right? We're at their level. So those are the kind of like, if you're going to think of this like we're all in a college course, right? Those are prerequisites for this, then using this creative stupidity. Another thing that's important to keep in mind is that joint attention. So if you've seen my video on joint attention, that triangle of attention where, we're both attending to the bubbles, we both know we want to blow the bubbles and play with them, and we know that we're going to do that together. We're both sharing that idea, right, about the bubbles. So if joint attention maybe isn't something that is a necessarily stronger skill yet, it's okay. We can still use these creative stupidity strategies or these sabotage strategies, but we want to keep that in mind so we can make sure that we're honoring any communicative attempt that a child has. So some of the things I always recommend doing in a speech therapy setting, let's say we're sitting down at a play, we're having we're going to engage in play. I don't know where my brain just went. Also, I just saw an ant crawling on the floor and I think I'm freaking out now that there's ants all over this office, but I'll get to that after I film this video. So, anyways, so let's take the bubbles again, right? So we're going to play bubbles and I have my bubbles. One of the ways I might sabotage this, the child might notice, they're not open, right? So maybe the child asked for bubbles or they said more. Well, they're closed and I might go, okay, here you go. And child might grab those and go, like you're supposed to open them, lady, or whatever, right? Another thing you could do is maybe you have one empty container of bubbles and one that's actually full and hand them the wrong one. that's empty, because obviously there's no bubbles coming out of that. Something else I like to do with this kind of situation, if we're doing bubbles, so let's say a couple times we do it, right? We don't include the sabotage yet. So we take our turns, you know, we open the jar, we pull out the wand, right? Then we blow the bubbles. Oh my gosh, if that hadn't worked, I would have been so embarrassed, right? Well, after every turn, I'm gonna set up this routine of, then we close the jar. Okay, what do you want? You know, what do you want? I want more. Okay, we have to open, and sometimes I'll have my students knock, knock, open the jar. Okay, open, because we're working on, you know, maybe requesting open or more or whatever, just getting that back and forth. Okay, open and then close. And we might do that like 3 times. So then on the 4th time, you know, they've learned, they know the routine. They know they're gonna go open and I'm gonna open it. Well, they might say open and I might go, okay, here you go. And maybe they get that weird look, and then it becomes just a little fun game, just a little bit of a, oh, I'm so silly, right? I'm so silly. I didn't open them. Oh, you have to tell me open, right? And maybe that's gonna, you know, just, it makes it funny. It makes it silly. It lets them know, oh, Miss M made a mistake. Oh, that's so silly. And it almost builds that confidence. And this is something I also learned when I was working with early intervention. And later I heard Laura Mize talk about this too, is that, you know, when we do these kinds of things, these little sabotage things, we can build confidence in our children. When we're working on building that rapport, or, you know, if you're a mom or a dad, of course you have that rapport with your child, right? But when you're working on these speech and language things, just that for the child to have that confidence and that enjoyment in the activity, so this playful teasing, you might call it, is really important. 1, because it's playful and fun, and 2, because they can see us making mistakes. And they can be the ones that problem solve them. No, Miss M, you didn't open. And just even that look of, wait, no, that's wrong. You did the routine wrong. Then you say, you're right. Oh, thank you for helping me. And that boost of confidence is so much more motivating to keep that engagement going. Whether or not it boosts maybe some verbal responses or some new gestures or some signs, it at least is getting that engagement piece. Maybe that attention is a little bit longer this time around and it's more fun. You get more laughs. I like comedy improv, so you know I'm there for the laughs. Other things you can do, I don't have my Mr. Potato Heads out right now, but if you're, you know, putting a Mr. Potato Head on and you've got the glasses, maybe put them on Mr. Potato Head's knee or his shoe. I don't know if they have knees in Mr. Potato Head. Put it on his ear. You know, put things in places that don't belong and then kind of just pretend that it's normal. I might take the teacup if we're doing some pretend play in the kitchen area, and I do this all the time. And I think my students that know me well, I can't use this tactic anymore because I like to just put things on my head. It's the easiest thing when you're face to face because it's very obvious. A teacup doesn't go there, right? And I love the look that I get when it's here and I go, okay, you know, just like I'm playing, you know, even if we're at the table, the little kitchen table, right? And they go, I'm like, what? Where's the teacup? You know, and they might look at it and then look at me and there's that joint attention. And then they might pull it off my head, which, okay, great. And then I could say, oh, you found it. Oh, is it on my head? I'm so silly. I'll try again. Try again. So there's that, like, I make a mistake, I try again mentality that kind of seeps through this sabotage stuff as well. Another thing that I've seen work or talked about with parents that they could do at home, if you're getting dressed, right? And especially when a child knows the routine, like socks go before shoes. Maybe start to put a child's sock or shoe on before you put their sock on and see if they like that. Or not that if they like that, but see if you can promote that problem solving of, wait, no, that doesn't, you need to put socks on first, lady or dad. It's always important throughout all of this too. If you're, you know, maybe you're going to go in and you're going to go into a speech therapy session. You're like, okay, I'm going to sabotage the heck out of this. I'm going to put a ball on the racetrack. Be flexible. Okay. Maybe, you know, you do that and the child doesn't notice. Don't push it into their face. just keep trying different things. Maybe, you know, maybe the ball was too much. Maybe all you need to do is take all the cars off the racetrack and go hide them and see if the child's like, wait a minute, where are the cars? I need cars for this racetrack, you know, and to get that engagement that way. You want to make sure that you're rewarding all the effort that they put into this. And I said this a little bit earlier, you're acknowledging every attempt. So when they take the cup off your head or when they look around like, where are the cars? You're interpreting that communication and you're rewarding it. You're building that confidence. Remember to use your OWL strategy, that wait, that W. Make sure you're waiting. You're waiting to see the wheels turn, the problem solving happen. One thing I want to point out, and I'm going to use my handy dandy box here. You might have children that you're like, I'm going to sabotage this. We're going to have fun with this. I'm going to take all the trains, but I'm going to leave the track. And I want them, my goal is to have them notice that the trains are gone and I want that track. I want them to request the trains, or I want them to point to the trains or whatever. Some of our little ones, we want to remember that object permanence piece. So the idea that something exists and is available to you in this area. Sometimes, and maybe let's go backwards a little bit when I explain this. Sometimes when things are concealed, let's say I have trains in here and I've got the train tracks out and my student doesn't have object permanence. That means that if the trains are in here and they can't see them, they don't realize that the trains are available. They don't realize that they're maybe there. They're going to see the train tracks and just, because there already is that difficulty with object permanence and understanding that the objects are there for them, they just need to request them. That might either trigger a little bit more frustration than we anticipated, and we don't want that. We want them to enjoy things, right? So we want to set them up for success and build that confidence. But also, they might just say, forget it altogether, and they might not give you anything because they don't see the trains that go at the train track, so they're going to go look for the blocks that they know are around the corner. So just keep in mind, if you have a child that maybe has a harder time with understanding that or having that object permanence, if you are going to do something where the objects aren't all available for whatever task it is or whatever preferred activity they want to do, put them in something like this. Get yourself some plastic, clear plastic tubs, clear plastic jars. I talked about in another video, my jar that I keep certain parts of one toy in, so that way they can request each part, but they can see them. So keep it like this. And this is my knock knock box. I'm going to talk about this in another video. So you want to make sure you find that video because this is another fun object. But the point of it is you can see that there are fun toys in here. So if this is your train track on the ground and you've got your trains in here, you can see all the trains that go on the train track. It might be up here, but my child or my student can see it. And that's so important because then you can get that gesture, you can get that joint attention. They can just go grab it, right? They can take your hand to it. Either way, then you can interpret that, that they took that opportunity to communicate with you what they wanted. They problem solved, and you could see them problem solving it because they knew that the trains weren't on the tracks. They were somewhere else and they had to get them to be able to follow through with the activity that they enjoy. Okay, I think I got everything. I have my little handy dandy notes here. Couple other ideas or examples. I talked about Mr. Potato Head a little bit. Another way you could do this, if you have, the Mr. Potato Heads out, take away all the ears and the arms and the parts and stuff and just have the potato bodies out and see if they notice, oh, we can't, well, where's all the fun stuff, For Play-Doh, if you have, for my kids, sometimes what I'll do is if they really like Play-Doh or those more like hands-on sensory activities like kinetic sand, I might have the all the things that go with it out, but I might not have the Play-Doh. Bubbles, we kind of went over, right? Having that empty one might be something that's useful for you. Again, the cars, things with like the tracks. So the cars have the track out, but maybe where's the cars, right? Trains, same thing. Gosh, there's so many ways you can do it. Again, put things on your head, put things where they don't belong in a situation. Build up the routine first, get some repetition in there so that comprehension piece is a little bit more solid so the student or the child understands what is supposed to happen. Again, if it's a preferred activity, that's probably the best way to go about this. That way you can really promote that problem solving and that engagement and build that confidence for your little ones. All right, if you ever have any questions about this or any of my other videos, don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. You can find me at marie@thanksmorris.com for email. I am so happy to help you. I am so happy to respond to any suggestions you have or requests for other videos. And I look forward to connecting with you all, and I look forward to getting more videos to you. See you later.